Hello, and thank you for joining us today for Foundation of Modernization, apps to support your tribe's needs. My name is Noelle Loughran, and I'm part of Esri's Industry Solutions team. I will be emceeing today's presentation. Today's presenters are Chris Buscaglia. Chris is with Esri's ArcGIS for State and Local Government Solutions team. We're also lucky to have with us Kerry with the Stillaguamish Tribe of Indians. He is the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer and the GIS Database Administrator. Kerry is also a tenured faculty and program advisor in geography at Everett Community College. He's been working for both institutions since 2000. And Chris, I will go ahead and let you begin.
All right, thanks, Noelle. So for the agenda, we're going to do a quick introduction of ArcGIS for local government. We're going to talk about some implementation patterns, and Kerry is also going to show some things that he's doing with the tribe. We're going to show some configuration approaches and talk a little bit about how you can get started, and then we're going to get your feedback. So to get started, what is ArcGIS for local government? Put it another way, what are we referring to when we say ArcGIS for local government? ArcGIS for local government is the ArcGIS platform. It's desktop, server, mobile, web, and online. ArcGIS for local government is configuring the ArcGIS platform around what you do. The ArcGIS platform is constantly evolving to enable new technologies and support new requirements from the user community. In the past few years, we have seen new technologies take hold: cloud computing, GPS functionality on commercial smartphones, and even crowdsourcing. As the technology evolves, so does the ArcGIS platform, and we take advantage of those new technologies. For instance, our catalog, you can think about your ArcGIS organization to help you manage that content. From a data model structure to more web maps and layers to provide value throughout the organization. From single servers to distributed computing, think of multiple computers working together, and even things like 2D features to 3D features. Today, the ArcGIS platform includes software, online services, and maps to support ArcGIS for local government, and even other solutions around not just local government, but utilities, defense, and state government as well. ArcGIS for local government is really just a collection of useful maps and applications that are free, that are configurable and extensible, and they're based on best practices from the community. So we actually take feedback from local government users, and we actually create new applications and solutions to support that work. We also have a series of Esri service offerings and other partner offerings of ours to help you implement these solutions. So if you don't have the resources or bandwidth to actually take on and create these and stand up these new solutions, you can actually get our services to help you do that, or our partner services as well. And you can also think about these working on a common information model, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So really our mission is to deliver maps and applications quickly throughout your organization. Also provide a roadmap for these capabilities, improve the service delivery, and expand the reach within your organization. We also want you to stay current on our current and future releases of our technology and avoid legacy systems. We want you to save time and money, leverage new offerings as they come on board, and also focus on very complex problems. We also want you to unlock the geospatial platform, ArcGIS, across many departments, even within your organization. And we also want to get feedback from you on best practices, what you're doing, and provide those as very focused solutions to help you do your work. We have many solutions. So this is just a screenshot that shows you across all of these domains, the different solutions that we have. And I'll talk about a couple of these today, but from elections, land records, into public health, fire safety, law enforcement. We have solutions in many solutions in public works, planning and development. And we also have some configurations of ArcGIS to help your entire organization, if that be a model organization that you can model yours after, from things like a standard information model to support the work that you do on your desktop and in the web. All right, so just to quickly talk about our evolution, our ArcGIS solutions evolution. You know, we started back in 2008 with a really rigid kind of information model that you could use, some custom web apps, some desktop add-ins, and we had something called the Resource Center that basically housed all this content for you. Then in 2012, we moved more towards responsive web applications. We developed some web app templates. We still had a bunch of desktop add-ins to help you do your desktop data management workflows. And then we have our new solution site, which I'll talk briefly about today. More recently, we've started working on ArcGIS Pro, and we've created some projects to help you do your work inside of Pro for desktop. And we've also really started to take a lot of those custom web apps and web app templates even and move them more towards Web App Builder and creating very focused widgets to help you do your work. And you'll see a couple of those today. We also released a new tool called our deployment tool, which I'll also talk about, which helps you basically take one of our solutions and deploy it very quickly in your organization, and then load your content, your authoritative content in, and make that really quick and easy. So we'll talk about that too. So there's a couple different patterns for our ArcGIS for local government solutions. We still support a very client server-based approach where you might have a desktop editing workflow, you might be publishing some web maps, and then have some analytics also driving that work. But we're also thinking about expanding that to a more WebGIS pattern, and you'll see that today. So you can see that those set of solutions expand into dashboards, more focused web apps, and that kind of thing. So we're moving a lot of our solutions into this pattern of a WebGIS. So to get started, there's a few different steps, and what you can do first is maybe think about configuring your ArcGIS Online organization if you haven't done so already. Step 2 would be to actually look at our suite of solutions that might be applicable to the work that you're doing, choose some, and then deploy those to that organization. Step 3 might be to actually take the application that was deployed and refine those layers that are included in those applications. You might brand them for your specific organization and then load your data into those. And we'll talk about that today. We'll demonstrate some of those patterns as well. So to quickly talk about our solutions deployment tool before I jump into a demo, really this helps you discover new offerings. So if there's existing offerings that you might have already deployed, this will help you discover new ones. It'll also tell you which ones you've already deployed. You can modify these solutions, so they don't just come out of the box and you have to use them the way that they are. We actually allow you to configure those solutions specifically for the work that you do. And then load data. So there's actually a tool to help you load your content directly into that solution once it's deployed. And that's all included with this one ArcGIS Pro add-in. And I'm going to jump right into that here in a second. So instead of going through slides, we'll go ahead and jump out to a demo real quick. And the first thing I want to show is that deployment tool. And I have ArcGIS Pro opened here, and I have my default map loaded in. And what I can do is I can actually go back to the original page here, and I can deploy an ArcGIS solution. And this is going to give me solutions available across all those domains I mentioned. So not just for local gov, but we also have emergency management, state government, utilities, et cetera in here. And what I could do is I could search across domains for a solution that I might be looking for, or I can dig specifically into, let's just say, local government and see all of those solutions available. I can even say I want to look at specific solutions for, let's just say, tax and land records. So in this case, I've typed in tax, and I have some configurations right out of the box that I can start deploying. For instance, a tax distribution application, which helps you understand where your tax dollars are being spent. The tax parcel viewer, which you can see I've already deployed to my organization with that green checkbox here. We also have some solutions around collecting delinquent property tax. So there's a tax reverted property solution, and then a dashboard to help you review those properties as you're going through the tax delinquency process. We even have a tax sale application, which helps you market those properties once they become default as in the tax sale. So those are just a few solutions within the entire suite of local gov solutions that you can deploy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out to one of the tax parcel viewer that I actually went off and deployed here. So what you get when I click OK on that deployment tool is I get all of the services required of the application. So in this case, I have a parcel markup layer, a default tax parcel layer, and a site address layer that I can use. I also get the web map configured for me that drives the application. So that's all ready to go. And I have the tax parcel viewer app itself deployed for me. Now this is not including your content. So there's also a tool in the deployment tools to help you load content in. but you might want to make some modifications to the default layers that we give you. And so you have the opportunity now to do that. But I'll just jump into the text parcel viewer the way that I've deployed it. And what you're going to see is a very focused application that helps users or citizens actually get information about their tax parcel, or they might want to get information about a parcel they're interested in. It could be a real estate agent as well looking at this application and determining or helping a potential client understand more about the property they're interested in. So what you're seeing here is a very focused pop-up. It's giving me the parcel number, the subdivision that that parcel's in, maybe the building and unit information, the tax district, the school district, etc. And this is all configurable as well. So you get this default configuration, but you can modify it for your needs. We also have a link out to the property management system. So if there's a property record card, you can link out to that. There's a nice unified search that allows me to search by address, parcel ID, or subdivision name. So most folks don't know what their parcel number is, so they can type in their site address instead. There's also ways that you can provide focused feedback. So that feedback layer I mentioned, I can go in here and say, as a citizen, that there's a problem with the parcel that I'm seeing or the characteristics are wrong, and I can submit feedback in a crowdsourced way as well. I can also print the map out, and I can change the default base map to be imagery as an example if I want to see the underlying imagery behind the application. So that's the text parcel viewer. You get all of that with the deployment tool, and it's very easy to configure. Switching ahead real quick, I just want to focus on a couple other solutions that we have that might be of interest. One of them is our photo survey application, which allows you to inventory your entire community with street level photography and then perform a very focused property condition survey. So imagine driving your entire community, taking street level photographs. We have some tools to help you process those photos and then publish them to your organization. And then from those photos, you can actually perform a very focused survey. So in this case, we're focusing in on condition. So is there a structure? Yes. Is the lot overgrown? Maybe. What kind of foundation exists for the property if you don't have that inventory? Is there any roof damage, exterior damage, graffiti, or boarded windows? And this survey can actually be crowdsourced. So if you want to open up this application to citizens within the community to help you do this very focused property survey, you can do that. And that's called Photo Survey. Just jumping ahead again, I want to quickly talk about a new application that we released recently called Mortgage Counseling Locator. And this allows you to search for an address, and it basically finds mortgage counseling centers around you if you're needing that type of service. And it also provides turn-by-turn directions to get you from where you are to that counseling location. This is also an application that's configurable using the deployment tools, and it's available now. Jumping ahead a little bit too, we also have a new solution around tracking demolitions. So imagine if you're a citizen of a community, you want to see where demolitions are taking place within the community, where they're planned demolitions, contracted demolitions, and completed demolitions. And what's interesting about this app is it really kind of opens up the channels from a citizen to the city or community to understand more about what's happening around them in terms of demolition activity. And what you can see for the planned ones are you're seeing some neighborhood information about that demolition, what type of structure is being demolished, when the actual demolition is being planned, and then the estimated cost if there was one. For the completed demolitions, I actually start seeing more information about who the contractor was that contracted for the demolition, when it was completed, and the actual cost. So I'm starting to see now how much these demolitions are actually costing for the community. So that's Demolition Tracker. All right, so I'm gonna go back to some slides, and we are gonna switch over to Kerry, who's gonna talk about some of the work that he's doing.
Okay, so I work for the Still tribe, and we're a small tribe in Northwest Washington, federally recognized. Like most tribes, we have a very complex jurisdictional and functional space that we operate in. We work with multiple government agencies. Personally, I work with over 70 government agencies, and my responsibilities is in historic preservation. One of the things I've got in this current slide set, it shows some of our tribal areas on the map to the right. It doesn't include our hunting territory, which would be the entire map that you see on the right there. And so we have a lot of space that we operate in. And so we find our spatial data and our GIS to be integral in how we're able to manage and operate the information and the use of these assets. The tribe's spatial data organization, we had a committee that was working on how we were going to be able to modernize our structure of how we use our information. With that, we came up with an idea of who our consumers were. We have a vital planning department. We have tribal housing that's very substantial. We've had 5 major capital projects in the last 3 years. Our economic development is growing rapidly. We have a natural resources department that works over a very broad area with some very unique challenges right now on salmon recovery. And our cultural resources department works over a 5-county area, including Seattle. And we review anywhere from 200 to 250 permits per month. Within this environment, we have tribal enterprise that's engaged currently in the last 3 years in a very robust land acquisition cycle. We have the 2 largest current consumers of our spatial data is natural and cultural resources. But one of the areas we're really trying to grow in is engaging our younger GIS users and our decision makers as well in how we're able to use spatial data or our GIS and how we go about our business. So planning is a key component. As I mentioned, we've had 5 major capital projects in the last several years, not including the Angel of the Winds Casino, which was built in 2004. That would be the major economic driver of the tribe, but the tribe is currently engaged in diversifying in many other areas. This is a peek inside our server. We currently deploy server for quite a while now. Chris, I wish we'd known about ArcGIS for Local Government Solutions 5 years ago. It would have been great, but I'm really looking forward to becoming engaged in this new model now. So within our server, we host a lot of our raster data, some of our larger historic data as well that are just more functional for us to host within our server structure. On the right, I've shown a few of our different applications that we are running right now as services. One are the tribal properties that we own currently. The application middle right is a 1910 Anderson firm map. We use this a lot in historic preservation to give us an idea of land ownership. And then the application in the bottom right is a 1933 aerial that shows us land use. Most recently, we were able to use this land use 1933 aerial for an excavation permit we're doing on a very important archaeological site. By using these aerials, we were able to see that the entire site had been clear cut in 1933. And it gave us a good indication of some of what the impacts of that site have been over the last many decades. Our tribe has deployed ArcGIS Online for about 4 or 5 years now on an enterprise level. We have several groups that are engaged with ArcGIS Online, and we're looking to constantly grow that process. One of the more current groups that we've been trying to get introduced to this ArcGIS Online is the Canoe family. Canoe Journey is in the summer. Most of the tribes in Northwest Washington engage in traveling to a host location from their homes. This is a vital and integral part of the culture. The Still tribe has this was our 2nd canoe journey this year, and so we're very new to this process, but very excited to be engaged in it. And so several of our Canoe family members, we made an app for them they'll talk about in a little bit with Collector. We also have a major concert Festival of the River event that happens in August, the 2nd weekend in August of each year. And this generally gets an attendance between 16,000 and 18,000 people. We have local and national entertainment that comes in, and a whole variety of events that really focus on stewardship of the natural resources of the river. As I mentioned earlier, hunting is a very intense focus of the tribe. We have many hunters, and so we have a hunting group, and we're trying to build applications for them. At the same time, we have a vital and engaged natural resource department that consume a lot of imagery, and then our cultural resource department is listed as permits. One of the more fun applications, and when I say fun, it's also a very important application to us right now, is a story map. It really recognizes the cultural landscape and the Lashute seed, or Northern Coastal Salish language, that's been utilized in this area for a long period of time. So our goal is to really increase the number of place names we have in Lashute seed in our tribal area, and we're hoping to have 100 over the next several years that we can build to this database. One of the unique, as many of you might know, aspects of story maps is we can include video clip. We can also include audio clips, which work really well for language. And so while this is a work in progress, what we're hoping to do is have audio clips that would sound out the name of each place in the correct Lashute seed dialect. What I have in the background of this story map right here is the 1876 General Surveyor maps that show some of the historic use. That's coming through our server, through ArcGIS Online as well. So story maps are a unique way to tell your story as a tribe, and as all of you know, tribes communicate through the use of dialogue and stories. That's just how we do it. All right. So next, we have a look at our ArcGIS Online platform. And one of the unique projects that one of our Canoe family members worked on this summer was to engage some local Youth Adult Conservation Corps members in surveying and inventorying some vegetation and indigenous types of biota. And he was very excited. He hadn't known about Survey 123 before, and he was able to utilize this tool. A lot of the people that did this were between 16 and 18 years of age. They downloaded the Survey 123 app on their phones. They got out in this environment and collected the data. And here we can see from the dashboard some of the results of that. It's a very wide assessment, very powerful tool. At the same time, as you read through some of these survey points, you can see that there's some very interesting comments that are made. And we love to see that. As I mentioned earlier, one of the really targeted audiences we want for our GIS are our young members, and we want to get them excited about it. And this is one tool that seemed to work really well for that. One of the other apps we're using right now is we're using Collector. On the left, this shows the desktop version. Currently, what we use for our field data collection and cultural resources, our Trimble unit. However, as many of you know, last year, Bluetooth antennas became readily available. As a result of this, we can now pair with our smartphones and get sub-meter accuracy. We're very excited to start to experiment with the use of Collector. One of the real advantages of this that Chris mentioned earlier is now we combine all of our data into dashboard, and this does not have to be done manually, and that's a huge asset to us. Also, we're integrated with the Esri platform within ArcGIS Online and a whole variety of things, and that creates a huge leverage as well. What this shows in the table of contents are culturally modified trees, longhouse locations, maybe some other different types of archaeological features as well, from fire-charred rock to unifacial tools, etc. We can collect all this, we can add to our data dictionary as necessary, and then we can easily map it. On the right, this shows, as I mentioned, our Canoe family journey last year. And this is actually in ArcGIS Online. Once again, we can map different types of attributes. And this was created for our Canoe family so that they could then collect data and share that story with family members at schools, etc., and get excited to be able to spread what their experience was. I'm going to end up with local government solutions. And looking through the page, we're very excited to be able to engage in some of these solutions in our everyday functions. And several samples that I pulled out, wildlife management area locator that we'd be able to use right away. I'm going to give you an example that we've already done, but would have been much easier using the understand and communicate environmental impact. And then one of the most common requests we receive from all tribal members and staff is a very simple app that simply tells us property ownership. Currently, our tribe is engaged in a major project, multi-million-dollar transportation project that would upgrade the current road that connects Interstate 5 to the Angel of the Winds Casino. The road was built in the 1940s. As such, it has much of the same infrastructure, much of the same prism, what was traditional at that time, and it's very narrow. And so as a result, the tribe has 2 gas stations, and part of our responsibility is to utilize some of the tax we collect from those to improve our infrastructure. And so we're engaged in this major project. However, oftentimes when the tribes do projects like these, the impact can be misinterpreted. So one of the things we're hoping to do is really communicate with the local landowners what the project is and maybe address any questions they might have. And so we can do this through a story map. On the left, you can see the environmental impact, off-the-shelf product that comes with local government solutions. And then on the right, a story map that we've already been in the process of building. So this shows the project description, where we can kind of give a brief description of what the project is. We can then move to a map that shows some of the different parts of this, from the wetlands. There's a parcel component as well with this map. And we can really disclose to the public at large a little more information about project area, the APE, and what might be involved with that as we go through the different links of it. Now, just as easily, this story map could be addressed in tribal planning meetings with tribal leadership. And in this case, the focus would be much different. Or we could use it as well to kind of mesh information between different consultant contractors that are working on this project. So the point here is that this is a very versatile type of application that can really address a lot of different needs. However, one size does not fit all. And I think that is it for me.
Thank you, Kerry. And we will go back to Chris now for the rest of ArcGIS for local government.
Thanks, Noel. I want to quickly just talk about how you can get started loading data into some of those solutions that I mentioned. Also, if you find any other solution that might be of use, how you can kind of get started with that. And quickly, I want to talk about the local government information model. Some of the folks on the call might know what this is, and how that really works with the web GIS pattern that I talked about. So it's a geodatabase schema and a service catalog. So it not only contains raw layers that you can use inside of a geodatabase, but it also has some of those web layers I mentioned. So you can think about it in both ways. It includes both the geodatabase schema and the service catalog. It supports maps and applications. It has rich symbology included with it and cartography. So it's not just the raw data, it's also the symbols that you can use for your maps. It's easy to adopt and extend. Like I mentioned, you can actually add whatever you'd like to this schema, default schema, and modify it as you see fit. You can get started by just downloading it, the local government model, review the data dictionary for that model, see what things make sense to you, configure domains, field aliases, fields themselves. You can change the spatial reference to be specific to the locality that you're in. And you can also use something called X-ray, and I can point people in the right direction to get this tool as well to help you modify and refine that data model. So loading data, we have some tools to help you with this. We have standard ArcGIS tools that are included with that deployment tool, like I mentioned, which is just the append tool. I'm taking some data from my local copy and I'm appending it into some of those layers that I mentioned. We have something called Data Assistant, which I'll briefly talk about as well, which is a ArcGIS Pro add-in that helps you load data into the data model that we're providing. We also have an extension, the Data Interop extension, that uses FME technology to help you do that as well. So you might already have some of these things. You can use all of them to load your content. So just to focus on Data Assistant for a second, like I mentioned, this is a ArcGIS Pro add-in that allows you to do some ETL, or extract, transform, and load data into either of those default web layers that I mentioned, or layers that are in the local government model. This works against feature layers and feature classes. That doesn't matter. You can load data into either one. What's really neat about Data Assistant is that you can actually preview the content before you commit to it. So you can take a look at how the data is going to map over to that solution, understand it a little better, and then commit to it by fully doing the append. It also works for data aggregation. So maybe you have multiple management districts and you want to aggregate data across jurisdictional boundaries. You can actually use this data assistant tool to take input from multiple jurisdictions and create one seamless layer. And one good example of that is address information and parcel data. So we actually have two solutions, one called Community Parcels and one called Community Addresses, which uses data assistant to append data across multiple jurisdictions. And you can use that for any layer. You can use that for roads, you can use that for hunting boundaries, you can use that for a variety of different types of layers. So think about that. This is included with that community parcel download and the community address download on the solution page, and that's solutions.arcgis.com. So just some closing thoughts. You can think about your local government GIS as an evolving being, and you can add to it new solutions as we bring them on, or you can create your own as Kerry has done. Focus on the business needs of your organization and deploy solutions that make sense for those business needs. Try to leverage your ArcGIS organization if you haven't done so already, and that solutions deployment tool that we talked about. So how can I actually use that solutions deployment tool to create some new applications and talk amongst all the different departments or folks that are interested in those things to get the word out and get buy-in for them. Embrace new ArcGIS capabilities as they come on board. So as new capabilities come on board, there'll be new solutions that leverage those capabilities. And don't hesitate to ask us for help, other folks, peers of yours, and then we have partners that can help you as well. If you want to get more information about ArcGIS solutions, you can join one of our meetups. So we actually have a meetup that happens typically every month called the ArcGIS for Local Government Meetup, and that's on meetup.com. You can find it just by searching. We also have all of our solutions, like I mentioned, that are configurable and extensible on GitHub. So if you are interested in a particular web application, as an example, we typically have all the source code for that application available online on GitHub. So like I said before, it comes with ArcGIS. So thanks. Solutions.arcgis.com, which I mentioned, you can get all of the solutions that you saw, plus the deployment tool, the data assistant, any of the solutions that I didn't mention, you'll find them there. There's the URL for the meetup, so meetup.com, ArcGIS for Local Government, our Twitter handle, and the GitHub URL as well.
Thank you so much for joining us today.